Greg Palast, the investigative reporter and contributor to Rolling Stone magazine, author and filmmaker of The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. His website, gregpalast.com. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast. The great exposer of interstate crosscheck. Greg, welcome back to the program.
Always glad to be with you, Tom.
It's great to have you with us, Greg. I've got, I noticed this morning, and I know that you're on this, right? But I just, and I want to get your take on this. I noticed this morning that Trump did this whole big ceremony to make sure that it got, really blown out over the networks so that the Koch brothers couldn't miss it. A signing ceremony, essentially, to open the Keystone Pipeline. And at the same time that he's doing this, or at least just before he was doing this, the Koch brothers were saying to the so-called Freedom Caucus, I call them the Cokehead Caucus, they all take money from the Koch network. The Koch brothers were saying to them, if you don't vote with the president and you don't vote with Paul Ryan, and Paul Ryan refuses to give you money out of his multi-million-dollar super PAC, we will fund your reelection. Don't worry. Now, that's the setup for the story. You, no doubt, have the rest of the story.
By the way, to offer to fund someone's campaign for their vote, believe it or not, a woman from the League of Women Voters went to prison for making such an offer, that if they voted for the, years ago, if a congressman voted for the Equal Rights Act, and they ended up in political problems, that League of Women Voters would fund them. She ended up in prison.
Seriously?
So by the way, so the Koch brothers' offer is in fact a
bribe.
felony. But but why would they? What's moving them to felony this morning? The answer is the Keystone Pipeline, and who is the beneficiary? Well, again, you got it. No points for guessing that four-letter word, Koch. Now, everyone knows Charles and David Koch. They're our new bête noirs. I've been following these guys for years and years and years, decades. And they used to be the richest guys you never heard of. But right now, the XL pipeline, how's it help them? They've said, we don't own a dime of the XL pipeline, XL Keystone Pipeline. We don't own any of the tar sands, and that's suspect. But why are they so concerned about this? Their organization, Americans for Prosperity for the Kochs, as they said, that's the number one thing that Trump must do, and he just did it. Why are the Kochs so excited about the XL pipeline? Because the pipeline ends at their refinery in Corpus Christi, Texas. They're the ones who get that sludgy, gunky tar sands oil from Canada. And you have to ask yourself, why in the world are we building a pipeline from Canada all the way across the United States, across our water aquifers, down to Texas? I mean, I've heard Texas has some oil. So why are we taking oil from Canada to Texas? The answer is the Koch brothers. Their refinery on the coast, on the Gulf Coast, cannot use Texas oil because Texas oil isn't filthy enough. It isn't heavy enough, technically, to work in their refinery. At the moment, the main and virtually the only source of heavy oil that the Koch refinery can use is coming from Venezuela. Hugo Chavez land. And the late Chavez told me he was really going to stick it to the Kochs. He did. If they can get the oil from Canada, they save $15 a barrel. The Canadians are giving the stuff away at a loss.
Well, on top of that, Greg,
$15 a barrel.
Let me just reality check this with you. I've got an article here by Steve Muffson and Julia Eilperin in the Washington Post, dated March 20th, 2014, and I'll just read the headline to you. The biggest foreign leaseholder in Canada's oil sands isn't ExxonMobil or Chevron. It's the Koch brothers.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm always laughing when they say they have no interest. Yes, they have no interest in the actual pipe. They don't own any part of TransCanada, but they do have those sludge fields. And you have to understand, if you use up all the tar sands of Canada, and we do get that tar sands oil out, they call it oil. It's really liquid coal. Bituminous, it's called. If you use that tar sands, the temperature of the Earth will rise by 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Just burning that field, 2 degrees Fahrenheit. It's that filthy, that basically because it's liquid coal. Now, the Koch brothers, by saving $15 a barrel by getting the oil from Canada through the pipeline, as opposed to trying to squeeze it out of Venezuela, which is holding them captive because it's the only place they can go to get this heavy oil. By the way, the tar sands of Canada is about 5 times as filthy as the filthy oil of Venezuela. They'll make $1 billion a year. That's the two brothers. Remember, they own Koch Industries almost entirely themselves. So it's $1 billion a year for those two brothers. But there's a third Koch that everyone forgets about, Billy Koch, William Koch, the third Koch. Now, he's split from his brothers, but they have one thing in common, a lust for that XL Keystone pipeline. Why? You can't actually send tar through a pipe for 2,000 miles because it's tar, so it'll block up the pipe. So they have to take a lot of the tar out of the pipe as it's rolling down from Canada. And so it is Billy Koch's company, Oxbow Carbon, love the name, Oxbow Carbon, which takes the tar, the filth, some of the filth out of the pipeline, the gunk, the tar. They let it dry in Chicago and in Detroit into giant, it's like mountains of this of what looks like coal.
And let me place a bet here. These giant mountains of poisonous coal are in neighborhoods of people of color.
Well, yeah, I just told you, Detroit, Chicago, on the river, you bet. Yeah. And then they ship it off to China, which uses it for smelting ore. It's called industrial coke, C-O-K-E, as opposed to K-O-C-H. And the industrial coke from Billy Koch, from Oxbow Carbon, is sent to China, where it gets to heat our planet to the boiling point. So you've got the filth merchants, the Koch, they're the ultimate filth merchant family. You got little Billy with Oxbow Carbon. He's only worth about $10 billion. And then his brothers, who are worth about $50 billion each, they'll be burning the rest of that filthy gunk down in Corpus Christi, Texas, at their big refinery. $1 billion a year for all three of them, about $1 billion a year in value of opening up that XL pipeline. So, hey, that's why they call it Americans for Prosperity, their prosperity.
Yeah, they should rename it Americans for Billionaire Prosperity. So what do you think about my conspiracy theory here that the whole reason why Trump this morning chose to make a big deal about opening the Keystone Pipeline is not a coincidence based on yesterday's news story that the Koch brothers said that if you vote against Trump's health care bill, we will make you whole?
Yeah, well, basically, he's starting out by making the Kochs whole and saying, look, I gave you your damn pipe. Now, shut up and let me at least pretend I'm going to have something of a health bill. Of course, why is it called? Why is it called his
American Health Care Act?
Lack of care, isn't it? But so what he's trying to do is tell the Kochs, listen, I just took care of you boys. Yeah. Be nice. Yeah. It's $1 billion. Those billionaires have got to stick together, but we'll see. The Kochs aren't easily mollified. In other words, $1 billion a year for each of the three. I don't think it's enough for them. That's not enough. Apparently.
This is mind-boggling. Greg Palast, you always have the inside scoop. It is great talking with you. Please keep up the great work. People can find all your work over at gregpalast.com. The movie, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, isn't it? Or no, it's on Amazon, right?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It has a whole section on the Kochs and their pipe.
And you can stream it. Great. It's called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy on Amazon. GregPalast.com, Greg_Palast for Twitter. Thank you, Greg.
You're the best, Tom. Thanks.